listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of See Here's the Thing. Patrick and I are super excited to share our interview with Jeff Sass, former writer, producer, and director of sales at Troma Film Studios, the good people responsible for films like The Toxic Avenger, Sergeant Kabuki Man, and Tromeo and Juliet. As a special bonus, Jeff's given us 5 copies of his book to give away to our loyal listeners. To win a copy of Everything I Know About Business and Marketing I Learned from The Toxic Avenger, all you have to do is visit bit.ly/toxicbookgive and choose which way you'll enter. You can visit our Facebook page, follow our Twitter account, and also tweet out a customized message. You can enter one way, or you can enter all 3 ways. The giveaway runs from July 31st to August 7th and is coordinated through Rafflecopter. Thanks again to Jeff for his generous donation, and without further ado, episode 61 begins right about now. And welcome back, listeners, to episode 61 of See Here's the Thing. I am your host, Kate, and I'm yet again joined by my dogged co-host, Patrick.
You say yet again like you're angry about it.
I'm so surprised you keep coming back.
And dogged? Really?
Dogged.
Okay.
My dogged co-host.
Yeah, that's probably the nicest thing you could say. Sure.
Determined.
Sure.
Disciplined.
Yeah. And I think after last week's, or 2 weeks ago, you were hoping to get a new co-host.
I'm pretty sure I did. I don't think there was a question of I was hoping to.
Yeah. Look, I'm still here.
And Eric is not.
Yeah.
Or is he?
He's out with Manuel.
He's out. Hey, Manuel, how you doing? You have Eric out there. Oh, see, I went.
What was that?
I was not.
What was that?
That was not Spanish.
Look at me being critical of your of your accents.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Patrick, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm tired. It's been a long week.
I'd love to go back and make a supercut of all the times you've said I'm tired at the start of an episode. I mean, truly, like, you're always tired.
Can we do that? Can we do a supercut of me saying I'm tired?
A supercut of you saying that and then all of your impressions so far.
Oh, no. That's no fun.
I know we have a promo out there for the show right now on other podcasts, but I think our next promo needs to be just you doing the best of your...
Well, clearly, I'm the talent.
The on-air talent, as we always say. But we actually have another on-air talent today. We have a guest joining us. It's Mr. Jeff Sass. Everybody, welcome Jeff to the show.
Hello, Kate and Patrick. It's a pleasure to be here. And I was suppressing barking with all the talk about dogged. I really wanted, but I figured you hadn't introduced me yet, so I would stay in my little corner and wait quietly.
We have I don't know if this is a pun. This is going to work. We have the Tromatic Jeff Sass from Troma Films and Tromaville and The Toxic Avenger. And Jeff's here today to talk about his experience in the film industry and just great pop culture clips this week. We have this, it's like last week was so dry on pop culture clips. This week, there was enough for a whole month.
Well, yeah, we've got Comic-Con
and D23 and a lot of movie trailers came out, and there's just way too much. But first things first, Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, see, here's the thing. I used to live in New York, and when I was young, I worked for a company called Troma, which hopefully your listeners are familiar with, and I spent 7.5 years living in Tromaville and working on a lot of wild and crazy movies. And a lot of the lessons that I learned making these somewhat crappy but fun movies, I've carried forward throughout my career. So here, years later, I'm a CMO of a company now, .club domains, and I've had many varied career moves. But everywhere along the way, I've always looked back at my Troma experiences and found lessons that I thought were fun and valuable that I've applied to other jobs and other businesses. So I wrote a book called Everything I Know About Business and Marketing I Learned from the Toxic Avenger, subtitle One Man's Journey to Hell's Kitchen and Back. So I like that short title. I think it really attracts people's attention. But it's a fun book that really talks about a lot of the experiences I had working for Troma and then extracts kind of real-world business and marketing lessons from those experiences that you could apply to any business. So it's kind of fun. And people who are fans of Troma have really liked the book, but also people who've never heard of Troma have liked the book as well. So that's really reassuring.
Oh, that's excellent. I will tell you that it meets all of my criteria for books. It has photos, the chapters are short, and the words are not too long.
Yes, my vocabulary is limited. What can I say? But the short chapters are intentional. In fact, I read a book a while ago called Nobody Wants to Read Your Shit by Stephen Pressfield. And it was really a great book, but it also had these really short, succinct chapters that each one hit a real point. And I was very inspired by that format and really tried to similarly have, short chapters that made points. And even at the end of the book, I kind of summarize all the lessons for you to make it easier so you don't have to make notes or anything else. So
well, too long, didn't read. Here's the cliff notes at the very end of the book.
Exactly. Or in my case, the falling off the cliff notes.
Nice. So this book actually, I know it's all about marketing, but really I took away a lot from it. Just life lessons. For example, one of the things that I've been trying to incorporate, Patrick, whether you knew it or not this week, was instead of saying, this is my podcast, or when I record a podcast, I use the word we. Instead.
There is growth.
There's growth here.
There's growth.
And also, if Patrick has a good idea, I shouldn't be afraid to use it. Because you should use all good ideas and share good ideas.
You need the book to be told these things?
This is from Jeff's book, yes.
I guess that's a good thing, I guess.
Well, I think, sometimes, you have to be Captain Obvious. And I think that the lessons in the book, including the two that Kate so graciously remembered, are not things that are rocket science, but sometimes to make them resonate, you need a story behind it. And I think framing these somewhat obvious lessons in some cases around these stories and experiences from making these low-budget action horror films makes the lessons resonate in a way that perhaps is more fun and more interesting than the typical marketing book.
Well, you definitely had a lot of success with The Toxic Avenger. I know that you had a few sequels, and then part of our listening audience is a big theater audience, and The Toxic Avenger actually became a musical.
Yes, and the musical's been doing very, very well. I haven't had a chance to see it myself yet. I was in New York once while it was playing there, but couldn't get tickets. But it's a friend of mine just saw it in San Jose, California, and I know it had a great run in London. So I do hope to see it. I remember when Lloyd told me about the fact that they were turning it into a musical, and it was amazing to see how well it turned out. I was not there for the original Toxic Avenger. I joined Troma in 1987, shortly after that one had been released, but I did work firsthand on Toxic Avenger 2 and 3 and Troma's War and Sergeant Kabuki Man and many other films, during my tenure there. Sorry, go ahead.
For the tagline for the first Toxic Avenger.
Correct. And that happened before I even worked for Troma. It was on my very first meeting with Lloyd and Michael and my first visit to the Troma building in lovely Hell's Kitchen. And Lloyd was giving me the tour of the office, and we walked up the narrow staircases to the fourth floor where the editing suites were. And, of course, suites is being very generous. They were pretty much dumpy little rooms, and we had these old, flatbed moviola film editing consoles, because this was back in the days of actual film. And Lloyd showed me the trailer that he was working on for the Toxic Avenger, and it was kind of dry, and the tagline at the time was a different kind of hero. And he showed it to me and asked me what I thought, and realistically, it was very dry, and I knew a little bit about the movie at that point, and I knew that part of the appeal of the Toxic Avenger was that there was a little bit of humor behind this monstrous character, and I didn't feel that came through in the trailer. So Lloyd said, well, if you don't like it, what would you do? And I thought about it a moment, and I knew that Tromaville was set in New Jersey. It was Tromaville, New Jersey, and that's where the Toxic Avenger was from. And being a New Yorker, I knew the various aspersions we would lovingly cast at our friends across the Hudson River. So I said to Lloyd, Toxie's from New Jersey, right? He goes, yes, of course he is. I said, well, I would say the first superhero from New Jersey, right? Something that had a little wink to the audience that there was a sense of humor there. And Lloyd was like, I like that. That's good. Can we use it? And I said, of course, go ahead. And so they literally changed the tagline, and to this day, the tagline is the first superhero from New Jersey.
There's an ellipse in there, too. The first superhero ellipse from New Jersey.
Exactly. Read my ellipse. But the the lessons there from the book are twofold, and Kate, you touched on it earlier. One is, of course, don't be shy about giving up your ideas. Don't be shy about sharing your ideas. Too many of us keep our ideas precious, and we're worried about other people stealing them or whatever, when the reality is, if you share your ideas, they might get used. So I shared that tagline, and guess what? It's being used. So I have that to show. And Lloyd, the lesson from Lloyd is that he listened. Here was something where he probably was the one responsible for the original tagline. They had already spent time and money incorporating it into the trailer and into promotional materials. And yet when he heard an idea that he recognized as possibly a better idea, regardless if it's source, he didn't know me at this point from a hole in the wall, and I was some stranger off the street, literally. Yet he recognized the good idea when he heard it and was willing to change and adopt that new idea. And that's something oftentimes we're afraid to do.
That's awesome. And actually, I saved this one for Patrick. In the book, Jeff says that for business that you should have 3 basic necessities, 3 bare necessities from the Jungle Book. So, Patrick, I was curious to ask you, for this podcast, what are the 3 basic things that we need to keep this podcast going?
We need more me on the air.
So much for your we concept.
That's out the window.
I think there needs to be... there's no good way for me to answer this funny because I'll just get myself in trouble.
More whiskey sours.
Definitely more alcohol before, during, and after.
That's 2.
That's 2. The third one we need are more awesome guests like Jeff.
There you go. What a nice one.
Wow. That was nice.
That was very nice. Well,
shucks.
Well, now I'm curious. You talked about writing the book and being on the Texas Avenger, but a lot of our friends locally that listen to the podcast are going to want to know, how did you get there? How did you get to be doing on the movie, being in the movie?
So, it's interesting. So I started out my career in the entertainment industry. So I was working for my first job out of college for a company called Satori Entertainment, which was a small film distributor also based in New York. We were kind of famous at the time for bringing English language foreign films into the U.S., so films from Australia, New Zealand, and Great Britain. So we brought in some early Mel Gibson films like Tim with Mel Gibson and Piper Laurie, and some early films from Bruce Beresford like Don's Party, and we worked with a lot of these directors before they were very famous, which was kind of fun. And we were growing in the distribution of our films to pay television, HBO, and Showtime, and a lot of these outlets, and we were looking for more content. And I had heard about Troma and Lloyd and Michael, and I knew they had been building a pretty large library of movies, low-budget films, some that they produced and some that were produced by others that they acquired for distribution. And I thought maybe this would be good content for us to distribute through our channels, and maybe there's some kind of a distribution deal I could work out with Troma. And so I contacted Lloyd and Michael with that premise and came up to the Troma building to meet them. And at the end of the day, we got along great, but they had no interest whatsoever in doing business with Satori. So we stayed in touch, and about 6 or 7 months later, I ended up leaving Satori. I had been there for 5 years, and I went off to kind of do my own thing and start writing a few screenplays, and I wanted to really create stuff. And I went back to Troma and told Lloyd and Michael what I was doing and that I was interested in writing, and I showed them a sample of a screenplay I had written, and they thought it was okay, and offered me the opportunity to write a screenplay for them based on a concept and treatment that they had written. And so I took that opportunity and wrote a screenplay for Troma, and that was kind of my first foray, or my first toe into the door. And then eventually I got married and had a child, or I should say my wife at the time had the child. And what? We got pregnant. We had the child. And realized that the freelance world, although I had done a few things that were fun, including a children's show called My Friend Liberty, which was on CBS, but the freelance world was not conducive to raising and supporting a family, and I realized I needed to get a real job. Instead, I ended up working for Troma.
So Troma, I mean, I will be honest, I had never heard of Troma, but I had heard of the Toxic Avenger.
Yes. I
think just primarily from having a background in musical theater and hearing that. But you have to understand, people, that Troma has had the likes of Kevin Costner, Marissa Tomei, Vincent D'Onofrio, Samuel L. Jackson, Billy Bob Thornton, And the list goes on and on. Peter Jackson, Quentin Tarantino, and then, of course, the one that I learned about early on in my research was James Gunn, who just directed Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now James Gunn. So here's a kind of a fun side story. So when I left Troma in 1994, they hired a kid to replace me, ostensibly, and that kid they hired to replace me was James Gunn. Wow. So one could argue, loosely granted, but one could argue that had I not been a quitter, had I not left Troma, who knows where James Gunn would be today. Mm-hmm. Now, the truth is he's extremely talented, and he would be doing just fine with or without me and with or without Troma, although he does, credit Troma to giving him his start in making movies. So I feel like a tinge of responsibility there, perhaps.
I did look up the Troma movies, and there's just scads of them. But the one I'm hoping that somebody famous worked on, and it may be you, but it was after you left, was Farts of Darkness.
That is one that probably came after I left. I don't remember that, but I do. We had some crazy titles, and oftentimes, we would acquire films from other independent producers, sometimes even low-budget 16mm student films, and we would traumatize them, and that would involve some re-editing, that would involve coming up with a new title. So, some lame student film becomes Curse of the Cannibal Confederates, or Stuff Stephanie in the Incinerator, or, all these different crazy titles that we had. So that was part of the fun.
Rabid Grannies.
Patrick, wasn't Farts of Darkness your nickname in college?
It was. Darkness.
Was that a biopic? Was that about you that I didn't know about? Well,
Surf Nazis Must Die.
Surf Nazis Must Die, yes. Rabid Grannies, a great film. Of course, there's a chapter in the book about how we came across Redneck Zombies, which is now a Troma classic. And that's a great story because the two filmmakers were big fans of Troma, Perry Lunis and Ed Bishop, and they set out to make a Troma-esque movie. And at the time, they shot Redneck Zombies on video. And this was back before it was, before there were any, traditional films released on video. Everything was still on film. And they came to us with this movie on videotape, and we actually made a deal to distribute it. And when we released Redneck Zombies at the time, it was the first, feature-length film to be first released on video, not film. So it was really interesting. And but they literally showed up on our doorstep one day, like sleeping on our doorstep overnight, like homeless folks, and with their VHS or with their 3/4-inch U-matic tape in hand, begging to come in and show it to us and make a deal with Troma. So it's a great story.
Well, Jeff, you've got a lot of awesome stories in this book. One that I want to hold on to for a little bit later is the one about the Cannes Film Festival.
Yes, you can wait on that.
Yeah, that's a great story that I would like Jeff to share later in the episode. But first things first, second things first, first things second.
There you go.
Anyway, segue, obvious segue. Let's talk a little bit about what's been happening in our neck of the woods, in our social media this week. We got an awesome speak pipe from Imran of the Jock and Nerd podcast.
Love Jock and Nerd.
We love them. We know nothing about comic books, but for some reason, Anthony and Imran make them just so interesting and so accessible.
And for some reason, they like talking to us.
Yeah, we don't know why. We're just really happy that they do.
Yeah.
But last week on our episode, we talked about our best, worst films. And one of the films that Patrick brought up was Brain Donors.
Yeah.
So Imran left us a wonderful voicemail, and we will play that voicemail for you right now.
Hey, Kate and Patrick, what's up? It's Imran from the Jock and Nerd podcast, and I just had to leave you a voice comment on your last episode, top 5 best, worst movies. Reason being, Patrick just mentioned one of my favorite all-time movies that's so obscure that I didn't think anybody else knew about, and that is Brain Donors. I love Brain Donors. There's so many great one-liners in there. There's a line in there that I use all the time, and it's when somebody goes, wow, that's exciting, and John Turturro goes, you're excited? Feel these nipples. It's the best line. I quote that movie all the time. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. So, Patrick, you are a man after my own taste, and I was just glad you guys, you talked about Brain Donors. Yeah. Great show. Keep up the good work. We'll see you later.
How
That's
cool is
awesome.
that? Oh,
Yeah.
Brain Donors has got so many stupid lines in it. I love that
I don't
movie.
think I've ever seen it.
Well,
I know you've talked about
We're
it.
going to fix that.
Yeah.
You're going to hate it. You're
listen,
going to hate it.
Listen, listeners. We watched the film Caveman.
We watched parts of Caveman.
I fell asleep before the end, but
which is Kate's thing to do. When I want to show her a movie, she falls asleep.
it's my way of judging a film, apparently. But I do have narcolepsy. Not really, but
Jeff,
Patrick teases
Jeff,
me.
tell me you've heard of Caveman.
Absolutely. Was that Ringo Starr?
Thank you.
Okay.
You. So awesome and so awful at the same time.
Now, I went back and listened to the Jock and Nerd's take on Spider-Man, and I have a few things I have to say about that. But I will leave you your own voicemail, Imran. You can look forward to that.
Excellent.
Absolutely. So that was awesome. Thank you, Imran, for leaving us that. In other news, don't forget that we have a merchandise store. And this was reminded to us, because I forgot we had one, by TJ, one of our Patreon sponsors, who bought a lovely Heather Gray t-shirt this week. Plus, if you happen to be a Patreon subscriber, you get a discount code in our store. So if you'd like to become a subscriber, you can go to patreon.com. And then also, we had our best downloaded day ever on July 17th. How about that? How about them apples? In the Facebook zone, we asked our listeners, what's the best movie you've seen this summer? You want to guess which ones are the most popular?
Well, sure. It's going to be like Wonder Woman and Spider-Man and
And again, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yes.
Galaxy Volume 2, and of course, Parts of Darkness.
Parts of Darkness was sadly not on the list.
Okay.
We can add it, though,
All right.
to our own queue. But agreeing with you in the Wonder Woman front was Stephen Pappas from Is This Adulting podcast, Sean Burns, Donna Hume, Shelley Conrad, Sue Hansen, and Rosanna Deegan-Brown all said Wonder Woman. In the Guardians of the Galaxy front, David Mitchell brought that one up, but we agreed. We loved that movie.
Yep.
Elena Manchester said Glow on Netflix, which I have not seen yet. Paul from Varmints and also Stephen Pappas said Raiders of the Lost Ark and Spider-Man. They were Team Spider-Man. Then we also had Baby Driver from several of our listeners, and then Colossal, which I've also heard great things about.
Cool.
So I look forward to checking those out.
Now, Patrick, back to Farts of Darkness for a moment. Did you see the Centorama version?
Oh, no.
What?
I may have missed that one.
No. You know how much I love this in Disney. I'm hoping this is the same thing.
You understand what the smell is, though, don't you?
I don't care. It enhances the experience.
Oh, boy.
So go on. Tell us more about this.
No. I can only assume that there must be a Centorama version of a film called Farts
Would that be
of Darkness.
5D?
Actually, Patrick, did you know that there's a rumor from Disney right now that in Epcot they're installing a Farts of Darkness ride?
I did not know. What country is that going into, Kitty?
I hear it's a gas.
It has to be France. I mean, their armpits are a little smelly. So,
Oh, and thank you, all your French listeners. We'll see you.
adieu.
Adieu.
Au revoir, mon ami. J'aime le fromage.
And you mentioned Glow. I haven't seen it yet either, but that's the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling series that Mark Maron is in. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of great buzz about it. People on Facebook are talking constantly about that show. So, along with that, and Stranger Things, which is the season 2 just got a new trailer. But before we talk about trailers, because there are a lot, next week Stephen Pappas from Is This Adulting is coming on the show.
Cool.
And then we got a great iTunes review from Phil Rude from Blazing Caribou Studios.
A lot going on. Good, keep
A
going.
lot going on. And he says Kate and Patrick could not be a more likable couple as they laugh, chat, joke, and jab their way through pop culture news of the week. It's tough to find two more likable people hosting a show, and they're a delight to listen to.
That's lovely.
That's great, even though I've replaced you with Eric Gardner. Oh, too bad. But thanks, Phil, for leaving us that awesome
Thanks,
review.
Phil.
You, too, can leave us an iTunes review. We love hearing from you, and we
Pointing
share the
to the
great
air.
ones. We don't share the bad ones.
No.
Actually, we should.
We should. We're very entertaining.
But I'm not encouraging you to do that,
No.
listeners. Anyway, Patrick, you seem like you have something that you want to say to Jeff.
Thank you. Jeff,
Tell Jeff.
Jeff, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Jeff, what we do on the podcast when Kate remembers is we do a word of the podcast.
Aha.
And we probably could have done this an hour ago, but here we are now. So the word of the podcast is for you to try to work in any way that you can, see if you can slip it in without us knowing. And kudos to you if you can do that. The word of the podcast will be twist.
Twist.
Twist. TWIST. Twist. Do I win?
Yeah. I've tried that.
Spelled it correct.
Unfortunately, no, I've tried that.
Give him a ding.
Yeah, I'll put that in post. Okay, twist. Any kind of version of twist.
Understood. Yeah. Understood. Well, I did work making many twisted movies in my career, so that should be no problem at all.
All right. Yeah. Patrick has this rule that you can't say it within a minute of establishing what the word is.
Well, no.
So.
Yeah, you can't shove it down the throat.
Okay.
That was for Julie.
Stick it in there. Get it in there. There you go. I'm going to give you the choice, Patrick. Do you want to go into movies, TV, or miscellaneous first?
Let's right off the top. Let's go movies.
Okay. So we've been hearing more and more about this Lion King remake. There was a rumor that Hugh Jackman was going to play Scar. That proved to not be true. But what is true is that we're getting John Oliver as Zazu.
Now, is this going to be like the Jungle Book where they have real life and animation?
I believe so. Unless they're going to just get them all make-upped up.
So John Oliver's going to be dressed as Zazu?
Yeah, he's going to be playing the lovable British bird that helps Simba early on in his ascendance to the throne.
So he'll be dressed as a bird, playing Zazu, making fun of Donald Trump the whole time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That's pretty much what he does these days, so it should be excellent.
Yeah. It'll be a very different take on the whole Lion King franchise.
Definitely.
A new twist.
Oh, there he goes. Already. He's on the ball.
Good. I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
And that was at 1 minute and 22 seconds after you introduced.
Write that down, Jeff. Thank you so much. The guest always beats us.
I know.
Every single time. We should just give up and trying to win.
No.
So John Oliver joins Donald Glover as Simba and James Earl Jones as Mufasa.
Simba.
Remember. Anyway.
This is CNN.
Another movie in the Disney universe is Wreck-It Ralph 2. And it's going to feature some people from Star Wars, Marvel, and apparently all the Disney princesses.
Now, is this going to be like the Jungle Book where it's like real life people and some real animals and cartoons?
This sounds like we just talked about this.
This is where all the different universes collide. Right?
I hope Wreck-It Ralph 2 is real life people. That would be awesome.
Yeah, no, Wreck-It Ralph 2 is subtitled Ralph Breaks the Internet. So apparently they're going to go out into the internet and explore all of that. Now, I love Wreck-It Ralph. I thought that it was robbed of an Oscar. I did not feel Brave deserved it. Jeff, are you a fan of animated films?
I am, but I'm not as up to date on those two as I should be.
Oh, they're great. You need to see Wreck-It Ralph. It's amazing. It's one of the best ones I've ever seen. Very surprising that they haven't incorporated it more into Disney World, but it's just not at the forefront right now. So hopefully this next movie will prompt them to put more stuff into Disney World because it's got a wonderful voice cast, and I can't say enough good things about it.
So how do you think, Kate, I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
How do the Disney princesses factor in here? What's going to happen?
I honestly think it's a cameo. I don't think it's anything bigger than they go somewhere on the internet and they find all the Disney princesses hanging out.
That's it?
On their own website. That's it. I honestly think it's going to be like a 30-second cameo. I think that's why they've hyped it up. I don't think it's going to be that they have an actual role in the movie.
So this is like the Poseidon Adventure, where pretty much every character they can think of is going to have that little cameo before they get killed?
Yeah, basically. Oh my gosh, let's kill them off. Who would you say would survive the longest out of all the Disney princesses?
Jeff, who do you think?
Of all the Disney princesses, I think Snow White.
Oh, really?
Yes.
But she's had
Look, she put up with those dwarfs for so many years, and there's 7 of them. She can handle anything.
But one might say that they did a lot for her, although she did clean a bit.
A bit.
And then left.
They were slobs.
Yeah.
Man, that's a great question. Which Disney princess can survive like a Hunger Games with Disney princesses? One hit.
And someone needs to create that. But I'm thinking like Sleeping Beauty could just fall asleep, and then
she'd turn into a log.
People forget about her. Right. And she would win by default.
No. I think Ariel.
Mulan. What about Mulan? No, Ariel. You put her on land, she's dead. She just dries up. Mulan knows how to fight.
And so does Brave. What's her name?
Merida. Yeah, but she only has like a bow and arrow.
Yeah, and her hair gives her away.
Yeah. Her hair would be sticking out too big. Anyway, you want to talk some Game of Thrones?
Jeff, are you a fan? Do you watch?
Absolutely. I am current and up to date, and I spotted Ed Sheeran before anyone mentioned it. I was watching very carefully.
So, to be fair, yeah, at the time of this taping, we will not have seen the 2nd episode of season 7,
or the 3rd.
Or the 3rd. That's right, because we're doing this a little bit out of our time loop. But did you like Ed Sheeran? Did you hate him, Jeff?
It was fine. It was fun. I smiled when I realized it was him, and that was that. I don't know that it contributed much to the numerous storylines we have to keep track of.
No, but here's my thing. Here's the thing. If you were going to be a guest spot and you were a famous person on Game of Thrones, wouldn't you want to be killed? I mean, wouldn't you want to have a knife through you?
Well, we haven't seen tonight's episode yet. Who knows what's going to happen?
Well, on top of that, some just fun news. You know Jon Snow? Who knows nothing?
Who knows nothing?
He knows something.
Tell me.
He's marrying Ygritte from the show.
In real life.
In real life, Rose Leslie and Kit Harington have become engaged to be married.
And that's such an unusual thing in Hollywood for, two people to star in a movie, fall in love, get married, and the rest is, what happens typically.
And then divorce.
Yeah, there's a few twists after that.
That's right.
And I guess Kit cooked her a beautiful, intimate dinner with candles, and then he proposed to her at the end of the evening. Aw.
Oh, that's nice. Now, Jeff, we never asked you. Did you meet your wife on the set of The Atoxic Avenger?
No, I didn't. We actually met, my former wife, I should say, but we actually met working together at Satori, the company that I was working for when I met Lloyd and Michael.
Here's a really fun, not fun, but
But I met several mistresses on this set. No, I'm just kidding.
Heck yeah! Go on.
Go on.
So
Toxie and I had a pretty hot and heavy thing going for a while.
Oh, go.
It was a monstrous relationship.
Yes.
So here's an interesting new twist in the Muppet universe. Kermit the Frog is getting a new voice.
Well, no, he's getting a different voice actor. It's going to be the same voice.
Well, you hope. I'm sure that
it's not going to be dramatically
these people are
different.
talented. They basically are mimicked anyway.
My name is Kermit.
Kermit's going to be Russian now.
Yes.
like in that one Muppet movie when he was sort of Russian.
Actually, that is the gentleman who played that part is the new voice of Kermit.
Is it really?
Yep.
Well, then I feel better about myself.
Oh, good.
But it was just kind of weird this week to read that he was fired for unacceptable business conduct. And then he never
the
really
voice
learned.
actor.
The voice actor. Well, and that got me to thinking, if it was really just Kermit, let's just say that Kermit got canned for unacceptable business conduct. Patrick, what on earth did Kermit do?
I know.
Oh, what did he do?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. What did he do?
He said rub it instead of rivet.
Unacceptable.
Can't do that. No, actually, the truth is, I read this online. He had Bunsen and Honeydew create a new meth that the rest of the Muppets had been taking, and the admins found out about it.
I heard he was fooling around with Bert and Ernie.
Oh, no. Which one?
Both.
No.
He was cheating on both of them.
Oh, my God. But where would he sleep? There's only 2 beds.
Oscar the Grouch's.
Well, that's a whole other problem.
Yeah. They got all jealous. It was bad. Yeah. The word of the day was very explicit.
Number 69.
He kept calling Mr. Hooper Mr. Hooper.
All right. Although, let him rest.
So, new Kermit the Frog coming down the pike. Also coming down the pike. Rub it. Oh, that's... A Few Good Men is coming to NBC. It's our next live theater event because we need more of them. But this actually sounds pretty cool because we're getting Alec Baldwin. Who's Alex? Is that his other brother? Alec Baldwin.
The 6th Baldwin brother.
Is going to be in A Few Good Men on NBC.
And he'll be playing the part that Jack Nicklaus made famous.
Yes, he's playing Colonel Jack.
Jack Nicklaus is the golfer.
Thank you.
It all started when I said Alex Baldwin. Who's he?
Well, that's cool. Now, any other... I mean, this isn't a musical, so this is going to be a play.
No, but Patrick, if it was a musical, what would the 11 o'clock number be?
You can't handle the truth.
Oh.
You can't handle the truth.
There's some snaps in it. I would not have guessed.
It's a tap number.
They all come out from the sides.
That's right.
All the deputies and bailiffs come out.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, it sounds like a nice, barbershop-y.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
5-part harmony, sure.
I love it. Yeah, that's all I know of the cast so far. Just Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson.
Not Nicholas.
Because he would be golfing, and that'd be weird.
Yes, that's different. Not the same thing. Anyway, our next news clip is another one of my favorite TV shows, and we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to take a little break.
Okay.
Before we get into some of our miscellaneous potpourri. Westworld has debuted a trailer for Season 2 featuring Frank Sinatra and I Gotta Be Me.
The sentient computers.
Yes. It was awesome.
Actually, haven't seen it.
Yeah, it doesn't really show too much to give away for plot, but it does show a lot of our favorite characters kind of kicking some ass.
Are there going to be naked robots in this one, too?
Oh, probably. Does Game of Thrones have nudity? Yes. So, of course, Westworld will. It actually opens with the player piano scroll.
Okay.
And as the scroll is moving and showing you some of the notes, there's blood on it as well.
Okay.
And then you see a lot of the robots going around the compound just killing everybody.
Jeff, did you watch the first season?
Absolutely. Yeah, Westworld was great. I still, I'm old enough to think very fondly of the original with Yul Brynner. And what's really amazing when you think back to that, like back then we didn't have theme parks as detailed as they are today. And so Westworld really was the ultimate theme park. And now you almost have the convergence of what's been happening in the movie and in the series with real theme parks in real life as AI and robotics really start stepping things up lately. So it's really interesting. And of course, you never know who's really a robot and who's not in it, and even in the trailer, it's a little bit ambiguous in a few of the cuts. So I can't wait for the new season.
All right, so I'm going to ask you: do you think the curator is alive or dead?
Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
Do you think he's alive?
As a human or as a robot?
Human.
No, I think the human is probably dead, and the robot is alive, and maybe it was always the robot. We don't know.
Interesting.
We don't know.
I love that show. I miss it so much.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that it's, like Game of Thrones it's like, oh, it's back, but there's 7 episodes. 6 now.
6, and then they've announced that they won't, the last season of Game of Thrones won't come out until 2019.
Yeah, they're pulling a Sherlock on us. Do you watch Sherlock, Jeff?
I haven't watched Sherlock. That's one. I have a long list. I mean, it's amazing how many good shows there are, and new ones keep cropping up. And then you get into this mindset of binge watching, so you have to get through a show before you go to the next show, and so the list is very long. Lots of good stuff.
Tons of good stuff.
Yeah,
We're always getting recommendations for TV shows, but we don't watch TV a lot.
Have you watched Black Mirror? That was one of my favorites.
No, I've heard excellent things about it.
Yep. Yeah, that was a lot of great shows.
So, go ahead, Patrick.
I was going to say, I think you and I need to sit down with Westworld again.
I would love to.
Before 2 comes out.
I love when you have a show that you do truly want to watch again.
Yeah.
Because for that much time to devote to it, that says a lot, I believe.
Well, because when the reveal happens of certain things, you want to go back and see how well it was or wasn't laid out, beforehand, and what did you miss that could have led you to see it before it was revealed?
So, listeners, we're going to take a short break, but when we get back, we're going to talk to Jeff more about his experiences with Troma Films, and we're also going to talk about the D23 Expo, Comic-Con, and a bunch of new movie trailers when we come back.
Hey everybody, this is Steven.
And this is Chris.
And we're the hosts of the brand new podcast, Is This Adulting?
Every week, we're going to sit down to have a discussion about life, culture, our own mental health struggles, and just about anything you can think of.
Have you ever wondered which breakfast cereal's the best?
Or how to help your friends who are dealing with mental illness?
Or why waterbeds were a thing?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, then have we got a show for you.
And remember, kids, be happy, stay healthy, and go hug someone.
Because you never know. They might just be starting a podcast.
Do you like sci-fi, AI, and technology? Do you enjoy going on tangents and down random rabbit holes of a subject? Then join me and my friends each week on Brokebot Mountain as some artificially intelligent people attempt to walk through a maze that explores themes of existence and free thought in sci-fi TV, movies, and books. The conversations are unique and bring an unusual perspective to the genre and can literally go anywhere. And we do mean anywhere. You can find us at blazingcariboustudios.com or look for Brokebot Mountain on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Welcome back to the show. We are here with Jeff Sass. We've been talking about movies and pop culture and Toxic Avengers, but we haven't talked about the Toxic Crusaders yet. So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about what that became.
Yeah, so one of the really interesting things that Troma accomplished, and they've accomplished a lot in their 40-plus years, is, back in the early 90s, right at just after the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had really hit their peak and were really popular, we managed to turn the Toxic Avenger, who, mind you, is a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength, the star of an R-rated movie with explicit violence, explicit nudity. A kid gets run over by a car and his head gets crushed. I mean, it's a horrible film in a wonderful way. And we took that R-rated character and managed to turn it into a Saturday morning cartoon series called The Toxic Crusaders. And not only was the Toxic Avenger, Toxie, the star, but he became the leader of this troupe of environmentally sound misfits and all these crazy superheroes, and it had an underlying positive environmental theme. So that was really a trend back then, to having these aggressive characters in kids' cartoons that really the Ninja Turtles started. So it was kind of fun, and we did the whole shebang. We had the Saturday morning cartoon. We did licensing and merchandising deals for comic books with Marvel and pajamas and party supplies and anything you could slap a logo on had a Toxic Crusaders logo on it at the time. It was a lot of fun.
So is the Toxic Avenger in Justice League?
No, I don't think he made it to that part of the universe. But we had two different Marvel comics. We had a Marvel comic of the Toxic Avenger, the brutal R-rated version, and then we had a separate Marvel comic series of the Toxic Crusaders. So that was a lot of fun working with the Marvel team on getting both of those comics done.
Speaking of comics, do you know what happened this weekend, Patrick?
I do.
Tell our listeners what happened.
I took a nap.
Okay, that's not what I was really going for.
All right.
I'm really happy you got some rest.
Yes.
But tell our listeners what we did yesterday. The clean version. We watched some trailers from Comic-Con.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we watched some trailers from Comic-Con.
Yeah, we sadly could not make it out. It's actually one of my bucket list things is to get to Comic-Con at some point. But Comic-Con was this weekend, and of course, to true internet fashion, everybody there put out videos like within 5 seconds of seeing these brand new spanking trailers, and we got a lot of trailers. There was a ton of trailers, including but not limited to Justice League, Ready Player One, Inhumans, The Sound of Water, Kingsman, The Golden Circle, and Jigsaw. Another Saw movie.
Yeah, to be fair, the other ones you're not mentioning are all horror films.
Yeah, there's a ton of horror going on. Ton of horror. So from that list, obviously one of the biggest ones people are talking about is the new Justice League trailer, which clocks in at about 4 minutes long, which is long for a trailer. It's very long. Are you a fan of the DC universe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not caught up with all of the recent films. Obviously, I did see Wonder Woman, and that was great. But yes, I'm a pseudo fan of all comics.
Did you see the trailer?
Not the one you just referenced, no.
Okay.
It was very... I felt the trailer was all over the place.
Oh, it was twisted and turned, and it was upside down. And
like, when I see a trailer, I want to be, number one, intrigued enough to learn more. I want to get some sort of idea what I'm getting myself into, and I'd also like to see who is featured in the film. Trailers of late that did this really well were Dunkirk and also Murder on the Orient Express. These were two really well-cut trailers. We've already had a single trailer for Justice League, and it was pretty brief. This one, I felt like they had no sense of a thread in between each cutscene to kind of keep everything together.
But do you think that is a direct result of so many people complaining about trailers that spell everything out?
Yeah, sometimes, too, it's the timing. You have to remember, too, especially when you have an event like Comic-Con, they're scrambling to put something together. And that movie is actually not coming out, some cases, for more than a year from now, which means not a whole lot has actually necessarily been shot yet. So they're scrambling to put stuff together, which is a lot different from cutting a trailer when everything's in the can, and principal photography is done and you have the whole movie to choose from. So sometimes that's the issue, too, especially with these early trailers.
Yeah, it felt like they put 20 scenes in a hat and shook the hat and just put them in any order.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? We got a little bit of, like, okay, we're going to see Themyscira again from Wonder Woman. We saw the Amazons and some big bad dropping down with a big old axe. But other than that, I have no idea what the big bad is about. I have no idea who's playing him. I think he's a lot of CGI. And then we just got almost like a supercut of each Justice League persona's biggest hits. That's what followed. I mean, and it was long. It went on forever. So, like, while I appreciate, like, the fun aspect of an action film, I just felt like it was a little too all over the place. Don't you think, Patrick?
Yeah, it was an Etch-a-Sketch of we're going to do this and then shake it and do this and shake it and do this and then shake it. It was all over the place.
Yeah, and since I haven't seen it, I have to agree with you 100%.
Thank you, Jeff.
We nailed it.
So insightful. Yeah. Another trailer that I was a little disappointed in was Ready Player One. This is a new film coming out from Steven Spielberg, based on a beloved sci-fi novel. And I wish I could tell you what it's all about. Here's what I think it's about. The kid from the movie about the girl with cancer.
Oh my gosh.
The kid from The Fault in Our Stars is doing some virtual reality. And that's about it. That's all I know.
And you get some drugs from Beaker and Bunsen Honeydew.
There's a lot of pop culture references in this. That's all I know. I wish I could know more. I don't know anything about this novel, and I've been told the novel is great. I've been told the novel is wonderful, but I, again, know nothing about it, and it just kind of frustrated me.
You know nothing.
You know nothing.
It's considered a classic. I actually have it on my Kindle, and I just have yet to read it, but it's been highly recommended from a lot of friends of mine who are big sci-fi authorities. And the only interesting thing about the trailer that I kind of liked visually was this notion that in this future it took place, the high-rise buildings were literally stacks of trailers, not the movie trailers we've been talking about, but the trailers people live in. I thought that was kind of a cool visualization of our dismal future.
It's set in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
Which is what...
Well, that says everything right there.
Right?
It could be better if it was set in New Jersey, I'm sure.
In Tromaville.
Come on. So along with those two trailers, we also saw another look at Inhumans, which is going to be on ABC, and this is starring Iwan Rheon from Game of Thrones, famous for his portrayal of Ramsay Bolton. We also saw, this trailer really intrigued me. Talk about a good trailer. The Sound of Water. This is about, from what we gathered, a mute girl works in this science lab, and they seem to be doing some experiments on this water creature, and she ends up forming a friendship with this water creature, and it grabbed me right away. And I've never heard of this before. It was a brand new idea for me, brand new movie, so that looked great. We also saw a trailer for I guess another Saw movie. It's called Jigsaw. That's what we did the whole time. I don't think we need to say much about it. Jeff, unless you're a fan of the Saw movies?
I have seen the Saw movies. I have seen what you saw.
After about the second film, it just became the same thing with a different number, honestly. So nothing much there, but there was a lot in our Kingsman: The Golden Circle trailer.
And I love me some Kingsman.
Yeah.
I do. I love that first movie. Love that first. And I think, actually, this is one of those instances where I think they gave away too much in the trailer.
Mm-hmm. I would absolutely agree with you on that, because I think one of the central questions was, is Colin Firth coming back? In the first teaser that we saw, we caught a glimpse of him, but it still was very unclear. This second trailer, he's in it like 5 times.
Yeah.
And not like they're trying to hide him. He's blatantly there.
So you're saying he was in the first one and also the second one?
The second one.
Second and the first.
The first and the second. Okay, good.
Maybe they'll do like a time lapse thing where they go back years to explain part of the storyline, and that's why he's in it. But
didn't you say that you thought maybe it could have been his twin brother? Maybe it's not really Harry.
It's Colin Firth.
Colin's second.
Second.
Colin's second.
I don't know. But I'm excited for that movie because I truly adore. My fear watching the trailer is that it's going to make Americans look absolutely horrific.
I don't know though. They kicked a lot of ass in that trailer.
Did, but not like
these days, that's a pretty large task,
right? Right. 100% agree. But my fear is that it's just going to come across as a stereotypical Americans. But whatever.
I don't know. I can't wait to see Pedro Pascal, who is, again, another Game of Thrones person. He gets to use some sort of lariat. It looks like a lasso.
Yes.
It's kind of like Wonder Woman. He's just borrowing it.
But not. That's
our Comic-Con look. There was also another expo of different sorts down in Florida, the D23 Expo for Disney.
Now, aren't you a Florida man, Jeff?
I'm in South Florida, so Fort Lauderdale. So I'm assuming that was probably up in the Orlando area. Near Disneyland. Yeah, it's about 3.5 hours drive from here.
Now, we assume that since you are living in Florida, you get to Disney as often as you want.
Yeah, it's at this point, it's kind of gotten old, although I'll go check out some of the new things that they've launched soon. But yes, as a Florida resident, you can get a Florida resident pass and go up there pretty frequently, and you can hop in the car and go. So certainly it's easy to do and fun, but hot.
Yeah, it gets hotter and hotter as it gets to August.
Yeah. Don't really want to go there in the summer unless you have to.
Well, from the expo, we got a first look at The Incredibles 2, great animated film. We also got some news about new transportation at Disney World, which is including a set of gondolas that fly across the sky.
Here today, gondola tomorrow.
You're pretty good at this.
Yeah, all right.
This pun game is right on point.
Yeah.
And also, not to, again, say another pun, but they're also going to be adding some minivans to the transportation, and I emphasize
no Mickey vans, just minivans.
Literally mini. They're going to be decorated like Minnie Mouse. So they punned themselves.
The D23 Expo released a lot of information about a lot of new rides, all kind of building up to the 2021 50-year anniversary of Disney.
Yeah, it seems like Epcot is going to get a huge overhaul.
Yeah, Epcot's going to be
a massively overhaul.
Overdone.
Yeah, by 2021 they should be finished, is what Patrick was saying.
That's right.
But the last thing I do want to mention from the expo was that they released a behind-the-scenes reel of The Last Jedi. And at one point, Daisy Ridley and Mark Hamill both kind of come out to say, along the lines of something like, that this film was unexpected, but it felt right. And I know that we've heard a lot about the direction of Luke's character, straight from the mouth of Mark Hamill. And it sounds like from this behind-the-scenes reel that it may or may not be what we're expecting, like what we envisioned the story to go, but I think we're going to be pleased in the end. I hope. That's my hope.
Look, the producers and the makers of Star Wars don't want you to be upset at the end.
Oh, and they never do, but look at even The Force Awakens. Some people were upset that it was too close to A New Hope, and you would think that they would have thought about that at some point. Somebody would have noticed the similarities. It didn't bother me, but you're always going to have some people that are upset.
Jeff, what do you think?
It's hard to satisfy everyone. As long as the Force is with you, all will be fine.
I am with the Force is with me.
Yeah. That is very true, because no matter what happens, there are going to be people that hate it.
Yeah, and everyone has their own vision for all of these universes, whether it's the Star Wars world or Marvel Comics or DC. Everyone takes it on and makes it their own, and so therefore, they're not always going to be aligned with the creator's vision.
Now, when you were working on Toxic Avenger and Toxic Avenger 2 and the Citizen Toxic and the Toxic Avenger Part 2 and I'm trying to go through the list.
Kabuki Man, all these movies.
Do you have issues with people not being happy or upset about the sequels?
With the Troma film, our fans are always happy. That's one of the beauties of Troma, is we have these loyal fans and they want to see it. We had a lot of fun. The truth be told, Toxic Avenger 2 and Toxic Avenger 3 were originally one movie. The script was one script for one film, and we ended up shooting so much footage. So much footage that we didn't know what to do with it. And after the fact, and this has happened later on with other films, but we were kind of the first to do that, and literally take what was in the can that was originally shot to be a single film and rework it after the fact to turn it into two separate movies and two self-sustained storylines. So 2 and 3 was one big shoot, and then in post-production it became two separate movies.
Cool.
So, Jeff, I saved this for the end because I find this to be just a great story. Jeff got a chance to go to the Cannes Film Festival with the Troma team. So tell us the story. This is from his book. So again, if you'd like to buy this book, it's entitled once more, Marketing 101, Everything I Know About Business and Marketing I Learned from the Toxic Avenger. So Jeff, please tell us that story.
Yeah, so the Cannes Film Festival was a lot of fun, and I've gone many, many times. I used to go, even for Satori before I worked at Troma. And of course, when Troma would go, it was a lot of fun. We would wreak havoc on the Croisette, which still happens to Troma to this day. But these kinds of shows are very, very expensive. And anyone in business, no matter what business you're in, if you've attended a trade show or a conference, you know that it's costly to attend. There's travel expenses, there's hotels and everything else. And a lot of times it's hard to see the direct benefits of actually being there. It's hard to attribute any real growth in your business or sales to that specific event. But Cannes was very important for us. You see the festival on TV with all the celebrities and the red carpets, but at the same time, there's the Cannes film market going on behind the scenes, and that's where independent producers from around the world are showing their wares and trying to make distribution deals for their movies in different territories. And that's what we would do. We would set up a suite in the Carlton Hotel, which was the main place, very expensive, and we'd have a few people there, for 2 weeks. So it really cost a lot of money for a small company like Troma to be there. And year after year, we'd do that, and, not much would happen other than us getting in trouble for putting our flyers or having Tromettes walk up and down the Croisette. But we still went back year after year after year. And one year, a guy walks into our suite, and he's dressed in a nice suit, and he kind of looks completely out of place in a Troma office. And he comes in and he sits down and he says, "I want to buy your movies." And it's okay, well, what movies you want? And he said, "I want all of these." And he put together this huge package of films for his territory. And it was, a few $100,000 worth of movies. Probably one of the biggest deals that we had made at that time. And he was ready to go right then and there. No dilly-dallying, make the deal. So we asked him afterwards, why are you doing this? Why are you buying all these movies from us now? And he said, I've been coming to the Cannes Film Festival for years, and every year I see you guys here. I see you working hard. I see you hawking your movies. I see you promoting yourselves, and you're back year after year after year. So I know that you're real. I know Troma is real. And I wasn't ready. Before I would see you here, but I wasn't ready to buy your films for my market. Now I'm ready. And so the lesson from that is there's that residual value to showing up at these conferences again and again and again and making your presence known that sometimes, you don't see it right away, but here years later, we made a deal that was big enough to actually, cover our costs all those previous years and then some. So there's that residual value of a trade show. So it's kind of a fun lesson from the Cannes Film Festival and Troma that I think applies to any business that goes to trade shows or conferences. Sometimes you have to invest in it over time to build your reputation, to build awareness, and that'll lead to the big sale, later on.
Now, I'm going to tell you that I heard every word you said, but after you said Tromettes, that's all
I was like, oh, what's that? There's a story behind that.
Well, the Tromette is the loving name we affix to any scantily clad nubile young girl who's walking around promoting Troma at the Cannes Film Festival and other places.
So I'm going to be promoting this on the podcast, obviously, and I feel like I'm young and nubile.
I will happily crown you an honorary Tromette on behalf of my former years in Troma, with the powers not really vested in me at all, but that I can say here on a podcast. I now anoint you, Kate, the Tromette.
There'll be no living with her.
It's gone to my head immediately. The fame,
Put your shirt back on, run a podcast.
I'm waving it around. Oh, man, this is the best thing that ever happened to me on this podcast, maybe.
Whoa!
Well, what else would you... This is pretty good.
Talking with me.
Oh. Well, but you're no longer here, remember?
Yeah, that's right.
You're only here today because Eric couldn't make it or whatever, but... Anyway.
That is very fascinating, though, Jeff. It really is. And it's actually, again, another life lesson where you don't give up. And everything that you're doing is building blocks onto something bigger.
Exactly, yeah. And that's not to say you don't have fun along the way and you don't have crazy experiences. And going to the Cannes Film Festival, we had lots of fun and interacted with lots of celebrities. And you mentioned Peter Jackson and you mentioned Quentin Tarantino. Those guys would actually come to visit us in our office in Cannes because they were big fans of Troma movies. Back long before Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson made a movie that arguably was inspired by Troma and aptly titled Bad Taste. So, that same Peter Jackson went on to do much greater things afterwards. So it was kind of fun to meet all these folks, early on in their careers.
That's awesome. So, Jeff, if our listeners want to learn more about Rabid Grannies or Farts of Darkness or your story and your book, where can we find you online?
Yes. Now, Farts of Darkness, I had nothing to do with, and we got to take that off my resume. It's just I don't want to get an incorrect IMDb entry because of your mention of Farts of Darkness. That was
maybe our first and only guest so far, I think, to have an IMDb credit. Biography. Yeah. So that's awesome. So please tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, real quick, you reminded me of another story from the book. One thing we always did at Troma is give everyone credits for everything because it doesn't cost you anything to throw some names at the end of the movie, and everyone loves seeing their name up on the screen. So, I mean, if you happen to come and deliver pizza to us while we're in production, we'd write your name down and put in the end credits, pizza delivered by Ralph. So giving credits is something that was easy to do. And it's recognition. And, if you're in business, if you have employees, they want recognition more than they want money oftentimes. And it's really important to remember to give people credits, or credit where it's due and to acknowledge the people on your team. And Troma was really good about that. Everything was Troma team. Everything was we, as we talked about earlier. And we give people credits. So I brought my son at the time, who was about 18 months old, to the set of Kabuki Man one weekend. We were shooting weekends, and there's a scene in the movie, and I have a picture of it in the book, where there's a big fight scene in the park when Kabuki Man is attacking a rapist, and there's a crowd of people watching the action, and in there's this big burly guy carrying a little kid, and that little kid is my son, Zach. So he had his name in the credits. So he got an IMDb listing, for being in the movie as the credits. And to this day, now Zach is in his late 20s. He still uses that IMDb listing to show off to people, right? He proudly parades around, hey, I'm listed in IMDb. Granted, he was 18 months old. Yeah, exactly. He didn't do much acting. He kind of sat there.
It cost literally nothing to give people credit. So I'd like to request that you go back into Sergeant Man to put me down as an official Troma.
Well, going back into it after the fact might actually cost something. You have to do it when you're actually in production.
The shot. I mean.
Yeah. But to answer your first question, how can people find me and find the book? So I want to make it easy for people to find the book on Amazon.com, where it's available in both the paperback and Kindle version. But, the Amazon link is Amazon.com / lots of random numbers and things. And I don't want you to have to go there and search for the book or remember my name. So as I mentioned before, my day job, when I'm not writing these books and telling these stories, is I'm the CMO of .club domains. We're one of the new domain name extensions. So there's a lot of new domain extensions you can get now. Instead of .com or .biz or .org, you can get .club. And there's another one, .marketing. So since the book is called Everything I Know About Business and Marketing I Learned from the Toxic Avenger, if you go to www.toxicavenger.marketing, it will take you right to the book on Amazon. So you don't have to search for it. You don't have to remember my name, remember the book. Just remember toxicavenger.marketing, and it'll take you right there. And, of course, the book also has a Facebook page. And also on Twitter, you can find me at Sass. The Facebook page is Everything I Know About Marketing I Learned from Toxic Avenger, or Facebook.com / Sass Marketing Book. It's pretty easy to find me and to find the book, and I really hope you will read it and enjoy it. And if you do, please leave a review.
Which, by the way, how cool is it that you actually own the Twitter handle @Sass? How did no?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Short and sweet, 4 characters. Yeah, I've been pretty active in social media, so I was early to Twitter. I think I joined Twitter in March of 2007. So I was able to get, my last name as my Twitter handle. And back in those days, someone who had a lot of followers had 300 followers. So you literally read every single tweet from every single person who followed you or who you followed. It was kind of fun back in the day. So yes, @Sass on Twitter.
Yeah. How long did you write the marketing book?
So the book was published at the end of May, so just recently.
And so your sequel is Marketing 102, and it's on.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to first focus on making this first book a success. The reviews have been great, and it's a lot of fun. And as I mentioned earlier, I think you can enjoy it whether you've heard of Troma or not. But certainly, if you are a Troma fan, there's some great behind-the-scenes stories. And if you're not a Troma fan or never heard of Troma, but are interested in business and marketing, and as Kate said, life lessons, I think wrapping these stories around these lessons is just kind of a fun way to learn and read and be inspired. It's not a dry book. It's not your typical marketing and business book.
No, it's a fun read. It's a quick read. And like I said, there's some really, really great stories from Jeff's career at Troma. And again, not just applying to marketing, applying to life in general. Just a great read. So make sure that you check that out. Check him out on social media. Patrick, anything from you?
I'm just happy to be included.
Yeah, you're just happy to be back.
He's still upset that you've been anointed a Tromette and he has not been anointed.
Is there a male version?
No one wants to say that.
I do.
Well, yes, he's a Troman. He's a Troman. There you go.
I'm Troman.
Oh,
you are a Troman.
Yes. Character for our podcast. Anyway, we want to thank Jeff for being with us today. Once again, this has been another episode of See Here's the Thing. You can check us out on all different kinds of social media, most notably Facebook and Twitter, but we will be back with you next week, so thanks for listening. Bye.